Kush was a kingdom in northern Africa in the region corresponding to modern-day Sudan. The larger region around Kush, later referred to as Nubia, was inhabited 8000 BCE, but the kingdom of Kush rose much later. The Kema culture, so named after the city of Kema in the region, is attested as early as 2500 BCE, and archaeological evidence from Sudan and Egypt show that Egyptians and the people of Kush region were in contact from the early dynastic period in Egypt. The later civilization defined as Kushite probably evolved from this earlier culture but was heavily influenced by the Egyptians. While the history of the overall country is quite ancient, the kingdom of Kush flourished between 1069 BCE and 350 CE. New Kingdom of Egypt. The New Kingdom of Egypt, 1517 to 1069 BCE, was in the final stages of decline, which empowered the Kushite city-state of Napata. The Kushites no longer had to worry about incursions into their territory by Egypt because Egypt now had enough trouble managing itself. They founded the kingdom of Kush with Napata as its capital, and Kush became the power in the region while Egypt floundered. The region was known by the Egyptians as Taseti, the land of the bow, in reference to skilled Kushite archers by the time of the Old Kingdom of Egypt, 2613 to 2181 BCE. What Kush was called by its inhabitants at this time is unclear. Perhaps it was always known as Kush, or some variant thereof, since Egyptian inscriptions also refer to it as Kus, Kas, and Kash. The designation Kush seems to be indigenous, while the later name of the same region, Nubia, came most likely from the Egyptians to the north. The region of Kush was the main source of gold for the Egyptians, and it is thought that Nubia derived from the Egyptian word for gold, Nub. The Egyptians also knew the land as Tahnesi, land of the black people. Greek and Roman writers referred to the region as Ethiopia, land of bone-faced persons, in reference to the indigenous people's black skin. It should be noted, however, that these designations may or may not have been referencing the whole region. During the Bronze Age, Nubian ancestors of the kingdom of Kush built spioi. A spios, a temple or tomb cut into rock face between 3700 to 3250 BCE. This greatly influenced the architecture of the New Kingdom. Tomb monuments were one of the more recognizable expressions of Kushite architecture. Uniquely Kushite tomb monuments were found from the beginning of the empire at El Kuru to the decline of the kingdom. These monuments developed organically from Middle Nile burial types. Kushites also created pyramids, mud brick temples, and masonry temples. Kushites' temples were quite diverse in their plan, except for the Ammon temples, which all have the same basic plan. Meroe, on the banks of the Nile, was an agricultural and industrial complex as well as capital of the kingdom of Kush, and grew wealthy through its iron works and trade. Grains and cereals were exported along with iron weapons and tools, and livestock roamed the fields around the city. Meroe was so wealthy that it became legendary, and the Persian king Cambyses II is said to have even launched an expedition to sack it. If said expedition was ever mounted, it never reached the city, and legend claims that Cambyses II's army was defeated by the inhospitable terrain they had to cross and the weather. Large forests rose on the far side of the fertile fields surrounding the city, which were irrigated by canals off the Nile. The upper class lived in large houses and palaces, which looked down on broad avenues lined with statuary while the lower classes lived in mud brick homes or huts. According to ancient inscriptions, even the poorest citizen of Meroe was still better off than anyone elsewhere. The Temple of Ammon, in the center of the city, was reportedly its jewel and on par with earlier temple at Napata. In 330 CE, the Axumites invaded and sacked Meroe. Although the city would continue on another 20 years, it was effectively destroyed by the Axumites. Even if the invasions had not come, however, Meroe was doomed and had brought these on itself.